Hello, everybody. Welcome to Design Party Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything product design. I'm your host, Antonia, and with me is...
Mr. Vitali. Hello, everybody.
Hey, hey.
How are you, Antonia?
I am giddy and happy, and some of our listeners, all three of them, will recognize that the intro is back. I think
Whoop,
I was
whoop.
missing it. Yeah. I think it's good. Let's just keep it. But yeah, how are you doing, Vitali?
I'm good. Very busy. Very excited about all the things that are happening. We have what appears to be the beginnings of an actual summer with the temperature and the weather. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's going to be Pride Parade tomorrow.
That is
So
true.
festivities. And yeah, being busy. Startup life is what it is. Every day is a learning experience. And yeah, I'm really excited to talk today about Sam Altman's predictions about the future of UI UX design in the age of AI. What do you think
So
about that?
many buzzwords. Ugh. Uh,
Yep, put it all together.
it's like AI wrote that. Yeah, I've found that interesting. I'm trying to remember like what I've seen because my retention of any kind of information is like about 1.5 days.
Well, I mean, that's actually a report that also came out that said that in the era of ChatGPT, if we lean too hard on AI, our brains start to melt. So
Same.
I'm definitely become a bit more aware of it. And shout out to OneSec, which is an amazing little app for iOS and Mac that can help you reduce the amount of time you spend on apps because it kind of like switches the app to 1 sec and then forces you to take a deep breath, and then you can go into the app and it tells you how many times you've opened the app in the last 24 hours and how much time since the last time you tried to open it. And I have really gotten a lot of help from that. But from what I remember, Sam Altman, he was giving a little talk and he was saying that the promise of AI and agents is that we can melt away the interfaces, that we don't need to have as many interfaces around us, that it can kind of like go into the background and handle things and only prompt you when it needs your input for a specific thing. And I think we can all get behind that vision, but is it really that straightforward?
Yes, I think it is. Have you watched Star Trek?
Well, I mean, they had gazillions of interfaces around them, so I don't know. I mean, or are you talking about the little tap tap thing?
Well, in many episodes, they would like press their static screen and say, I'm adjusting internal buffer for positronic array. But often they would be like, oh, we need to create a program with a new doctor. And then Ensign Kim would be like, hey, computer, make me a new hologram with this and this. Da, da, da. Literally, they would say what they want, like we now say to bold.new or v0 or whatever, and then something happens. Obviously, what we have today is like super crap compared to what they have in Star Trek, right? But we are on the right path. But basically, computer would take a verbal prompt and they would create a full program without errors, and then they would like iterate. Usually, it's related with holograms and holodeck. Like, oh, they would iterate. Like they would get the first draft. It's like very similar what we do right now, and then they would like tweak, 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 and then it would be like, okay, we have our program, right? So for me, it makes sense. And to be quite honest, I'm using voice more than I use everything else on my computer these days, because I'm using Mac Whisper and it has dictation option, which is pretty simple way to use, like, let's say your right command key if you use Mac, or if you use Windows, then I don't know what you can use. But yeah, I just press that and then I say whether it's like a reply on a message, or is it prompt that I'm putting in cursor or whatever app. I already am hands-free, so like I think voice is the next UI.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
So, so you stopped using that Aqua? I remember you were kind of trying these different voice assistant type of things that allowed you to do a
Yeah,
bunch of things with voice.
I stopped just because I think $8 is too much for such service. It's
But
more.
was it good? Did it help
Yeah,
you
yeah,
achieve
yeah, yeah.
things?
No, yeah. Seriously, if they would have like I don't know, like $4 or something per month, I would definitely keep using it because right now I'm having this comparison. I have Mac Whisper, and even for free, you can download small local package, which is safe and secure. It runs locally, right? And Aqua has a disadvantage because they will shoot everything to their servers. And then,
Right.
so maybe you don't want to like say sensitive stuff using Aqua, but with Mac Whisper, because it's just like local package,
Yeah, you can use it without the internet.
exactly, like whatever. And it works great with the vocabulary that we use in daily language. So, yeah, I just didn't feel that $8 per month is worth it. Yes, their experience is faster. It looks sleeker. It's like, yeah. But yeah, I would rather take this $8 and buy 2 yogurts. So,
I can understand that. But yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of promise with the thing, and I think it's really interesting because you and some other people that I know have kind of hopped on board of using dictation. For me, I have had such terrible experience. I think I was talking about this in an episode, or maybe when we were talking one on one, that I've had these experiences where I dictate something to like ChatGPT, and then I hit submit, and it loses it, and it's so soul crushing. I feel like I've lost some really great ideas. So nowadays I mainly use the iOS keyboard dictation to just dictate what I want to say, because then I can see it appear as I'm talking and I get a sense of security. And I think like I think one of the big things that's missing, whether it's voice commands, whether it's AI or vibe coding apps, that there's this gap between what I want and what I can feel assured in receiving. And it's that kind of trust, which I think kind of held back, like, for example, online shopping for a long time before we had the advent of like one-click pay and PayPal and these types of services that helped solidify it. And I feel that like, because I do think that every day we get almost like a new Whisper app that tries to package it. And there's a lot of like kind of, we've reached a new level of kind of how well these apps can understand what we are actually saying. But I think there's still something missing when it comes to like the operational security. Like I think like with vibe coding, there's a bunch of different startups now that are trying to do this kind of like security authentication and auditing that kind of tries to help. But I've heard some horror stories of like dating apps that have been vibe coded, and then like everything is sent in plain text, and you can like access the back end with like web requests and stuff, like just everything completely insecure. And so I think that there's a lot of excitement. I think there's a lot of potential there, but I feel that like, the Sam Altman's described future where I can just tell an agent to go and reserve a vacation for me seems so far off. Like the amount of trust that requires is astronomical. Like I can't even trust ChatGPT with something and not double verify it. Like it helps me. It can do some groundwork, but I would never in a million years at this point in time trust it to go and spend my money for me.
Absolutely. No. I don't think, even if technology comes by the end of this year to a point where it's 100% accurate, I don't think people will build that trust in such short time. We will need a lot more, experience and also proof that it is, what it says it is. It will do what it promises to do. It will not have this little label that says, "Oh, sometimes we hallucinate, so beware." Yeah, I don't see myself using, like I said, even if today they would release, it's 100% correct. Like it will never make a mistake. No, I would. And also, I think future will bring us very niche businesses, such as like people will, like mainstream will be, you will use some agent to, find you spots that might be interesting for you, but you will maybe manually like choose like what you prefer, and then book it in the interface of this chat. You will not go out like outside that. I mean, even in Star Trek, they don't have websites. Think about it. They were onto something.
I mean, it's crazy. Like self-opening doors was an invention of Star Trek.
That is true.
And you know who helped make Star Trek possible?
Who?
Lucille Ball from I Love Lucy. She was one of the big financial backers of it. Without her help, it would have
Oh,
never
I
happened.
didn't know that. I didn't know that. Look at that. Look at that.
Little tidbit. But I think there's also like it's hard to imagine in let's say early 2000s that something like Airbnb or Uber would go like, what, get into a stranger's car, what, get strangers to come into my house, like it like there is the opening for the possibility of it. But I think that I think the example that we're using of planning and booking an entire vacation is probably not where we're going to have the enormous upset of AI. Like, I think the promise of this, like, oh, it's going to take care of everything for you, is overstated, but then reducing like the repetitive copy pasting or kind of like going from one service to another, then I think the potential there is understated. That I think like when it comes to making sure that you've filled your taxes properly, or you've kind of dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's when it comes to like contracts, or making sure you don't forget like a calendar event that you've agreed to just in your messages, and that it's automatically in my calendar, like that type of stuff, I think it will become much bigger in terms of the potential that exists in helping streamline my digital life into something that's reasonable.
Yeah, but you know, when it comes to this like deeply personal things like vacation or even shopping, like you want to know like this shirt, what color is it, how does it feel, and all of that. I know like online shopping is very much you know, a thing that everybody does. We all bought clothes and stuff like online without touching it first, but still there's like a big subset of people that just enjoy having this tactile experience, and you know, it's a whole thing. So these like deeply personal things might, I think, become like maybe a niche business in future, because I can see mainstream people just be like, duh, like just click. But there will be a subset of people that will want to go to the store to try it out, to you know, to have the whole experience, talk with a salesperson or a robot or whoever will stand there, uh, and yeah. So I don't know, like, and also I wouldn't trust AI. You know, if we need to do like Vierokortti, like every year you need to check is everything all right. I like to know exactly what's there line by line. I would never in million freaking years trust computer to do anything for me there. No, like my eyes, my brain will double check. So AI can be like the best ever. This trust will never be 100%. And I'm fairly confident this is the same sentiment majority of people share. So me in like 2 years, hooked in on machines like, hey Vitali, I just got the new cyber arm, wanna see?
Yeah. No, and it's I think there's a lot of potential for offloading a lot of frustrating things from our lives to the hands of AI. Like, I don't think anyone would have imagined how many cookie like pop-ups we have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. Like, I think interfaces, I think we're back where we were in the late 90s. Like, remember when like every website was just full of ads and trying to capture your attention, and then like auto playing audio and all of this like horrendous stuff that nobody misses. But I feel like we're going back toward that again, because one of the things that I think is like a very tough cookie to crack is the fact that we kind of got used to everything being free. That we were the product, that like, all right, productize my data, but now more and more, that's not enough. Like, people don't want to rely on the free service. And like at Vandal, like we're still in open beta, we don't have a priced tier, and I feel like that kind of works against us, that people are like, it's a bit too good to be true, or like, how come you're not taking my money? Am I the product here? But it's like, no, we're well invested, we just want to gather data to make the best possible service before we monetize it. But in a sense, like, I think people are more like, let me give you $1 or $2 for this service so that we can have a trusting relationship and that everything is taken care of. But I feel a lot of these things also, when it comes to AI, are so expensive that, like, you know, are you willing to pay 30 euros a month for something that might streamline your life. And I think it's really interesting to see like what is this mysterious device that OpenAI and Johnny Ive are creating? Like, will it really be possible to create a value proposition for yet another device that somehow does something that my smartphone can't, that I want to lug around with me?
Yeah, Rabbit 2.0 is gonna happen just with nicer case, I guess. I'm so not interested. You know what just popped in my mind? Okay, so I'm a very sentimental person. I'm one of these losers that will go back to chats and reread some messages just to, like, oh, that was so sweet. Let me read it again, you know, or let me see this video again. And if I have a rock that talks with me, how the fuck am I gonna go back to these messages to satisfy my sentimental needs if I can't? What should I say? Hey, remember when I talked to this person yesterday? Can you start dictating from, message that sounded like la 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 la? No, that's not the thing. I want to see that message with all spelling mistakes and everything. Like, so I don't know what future brings, but people are not robots, and I see very often like comments on the internet that are mostly disgusted by the AI. It's like, yeah, it's cool, but no, like I don't want that. Like you're taking humanity away from me. No, I don't want that. So it's really hard to predict and talk what's going to happen purely from that angle. I don't know. Like, how do you see these things?
It's definitely double-sided.
Yeah.
Like on one hand, like I'm enjoying the assistance that AI is giving me with transcription, with analysis of
Yeah.
writing. But yeah, I don't enjoy AI videos. I find them very jarring. I
No,
think
me
that it's,
neither.
but in a sense, I think that also we're going through that era of discovery, because I think like ultimately the promise that these tech bros are giving, which is also like a thought that I had when you were saying like 100% safe. It's like, according to who? Like I
Yeah.
would never trust like all of these promises with self-driving cars, with robo taxis. Like none of that stuff is panning out. And also with AI, like all this talk about AGI, like you can't get AGI with LLMs. Like it's not the approach that will yield that result. It's kind of like, how many breads do I have to make a quantum computer? Like, no, you're not going to get there with that method. So I would say that there is a place for these tools, but it's not to do everything. Like, we will always want musicians making our music, but musicians using AI to have a wider selection of samples, or make it easier to mix a muddy low end, like that's great. Like let us focus on the creation, but I don't want AI doing art while I'm doing pivot tables in Excel. It's supposed to be the other way around. Like these tools should help liberate us, and I think, like I've said before, like my hope is that AI will increase productivity, that will help usher in an era of universal basic income, one where we can maybe share the wealth a bit better than what we've been doing as humanity since the 80s, and in that way create a bit more collective prosperity. But the people who own these tools, the people who are developing these technologies, don't have these interests at heart. And that, I think, is a bit concerning, because they don't care if the quality is worse as long as they make their dollar, which is what we see with like Netflix and their movies. Like they'll spend 500 million on like, what was it, Electric State, and they forget to include a plot, and they don't care because people will stream it anyway.
They forget to include the plot. That's a good one. um, yeah, I mean, like as a society, we are progressing, right? We have technical advances, but also at the same time, we are regressing as human beings, because everything has to be hyper monetized. Like you can't like. I don't know. I'm more and more like I feel like some IT hippie because I'm enjoying like these indie apps, and I would rather pay some like whoever, dude, girl, whatever, somewhere in Bulgaria that makes like this cool app that I use daily and that I enjoy, than use some mainstream tool. And they're usually
Hmm.
much better because they really care about like making these little things so good for people who use. Yeah. That said, I just remembered something. Somebody from US gave me 1 star for my app that I released a few months ago on App Store. And I know
Hmm.
why. Because I don't have much users, so I have free instance of Supabase, and it shut down due to not being written frequently enough, right? And also my app is a bit unique because you will use it only once per month. Um,
Right.
so the instance shut down, so nothing worked. And apparently at this period, that person downloaded, of course the app didn't work. I did manually, start the instance again, so of course it works now, but yeah, that person went, put 1 star, wrote this big text to like "Tuh" on me. Today I decided to leave a reply that I'm just a lady that develops this in her free time for fun. I'm sorry that the app is so horrible, and I'm working on bug fixes and improvements as we speak.
Hmm.
Um, so I just want to say that people, can you be kinder to like indie developers? Like it's just like human that's trying. Like don't give 1 stars. Like just don't use the app. If you give 1 star, you will introduce algorithm issues that will dump the app even further. And more people see like bad rating, they will decide, oh, let's not download this. So
Hmm.
just don't maybe.
Mm. Well, that's one thing I'm maybe hoping that AI can help us be a bit more human with one another. Now with that people can have access to like at least someone who will listen to them, because I think like one thing that we've really noticed with this hyper capitalistic era that we're living through is the suffocation of empathy. Like everything is commodified. Like we're not artists anymore. We're content creators. Like everything is so viewed through the eyes of transactions. And I
Yeah.
think like in the US, I think you really see this with how people behave in airplanes. Like just there's this like let me get mine and how dare you and I think that we've really forgotten that we're all one big village, and in a
Yeah.
way like people have insane expectations, and in a sense I think there's some good to that because it pushes like it's harder and harder to get people's business, whether that's a free app or a paid app. But in a sense, I'm getting a bit caught up because I had this thought that like this vision that Sam Altman has presented of like the UI melting away. Like for a while, it felt like mobile phones helped usher in that era. Like we had to simplify because there was only so much real estate. But then when I look at the apps I'm using nowadays, there's just a gazillion screens and a lot of complexity and hidden gestures and interaction methods that have kind of supplanted the simplicity that has been offered. And you look at like there's some phones that are trying to like bring in simple, but then they keep releasing new versions with more apps, and it's kind of like you're slowly getting back to what you tried to
Yeah,
get
it's
away
always
from.
like that. Hyper monetization.
Mm.
You just can't have like one thing and like one thing only. It always somebody will say, but we need more money. Now make it bigger. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just so fucking annoying. I
Yeah,
want to
like innovation is having 20 flavors of Dr. Pepper. Like it's really frustrating.
like um we mentioned Figma MCP in previous episode that we decided not to publish.
Mm.
So it's really good if we would mention it again here.
Well, Antonia, tell us what is model controller. What is the MCP?
MCP is like Model Context Protocol. Is it something
Yes.
like and is it really? Did you check?
Yeah, model context protocol.
So good. So basically, in laywoman's terms, if you go to Figma and preferences, and then you see enable MCP, blah, 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 you click on that, Figma will start a background server that will have some functions available for other apps to use. Which means if you, let's say, use Cursor, you can fire it up, go to cursor settings, and there is MCP tools, and then you can add Figma. And you can even see like which functions or endpoints, I don't know which is correct, like how that works in the background, but like which functions are available. So basically, Figma will send all these properties because everything that you draw in Figma is a node. Every node has bazillion of properties like X, Y, height, width, color, actually not color, fill, blah, 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 millions of things. So instead of you saying to AI, make me this rectangle that has a little bit curved, but no, forget about that. You just hook it and then you say in prompt, using Figma selection, please make me this component that should blah, blah, blah. And then you say what you want to say. So at that point, cursor will like, okay, Roger. It will take Figma stuff. It will talk with Figma. And then instead of having 3,000 prompts where you're trying to like get design right and using screenshots and like you describing to freaking details, everything, now with one prompt you will get a really good draft, like something that's like very, very good from the get-go, because Cursor or VS Code got the specs correctly from Figma as a context. It works.
Yeah, so it's basically like an API
Yeah.
standard for AI.
Exactly. I think this is a breakthrough for designers, and I see that Figma, I saw that Figma Make is getting like some like new features. I don't care. This MCP plus any coding editor is more powerful than anything Figma will produce from now to eternity. I'm not the only one who thinks that way. There are people on LinkedIn saying the same thing, designers. So if you didn't code because you're a designer, if you don't want to be unemployed very soon, start learning a little bit of code and a little bit of AI. Vitali, what do you think?
Well, I think AI is a great tool to help you learn programming.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I'm the most excited about when it comes to AI generally is that everybody in the world has access to the world's most patient mentor. Now, whether or not that mentor is 100% great doesn't really matter because a lot of mentors are pretty bad as well. So I think the amount of value that is available to people just using good old ChatGPT is amazing. And I think everyone should be using it. Not that you can't work without it, but use it as a tool to help you understand things. Like every week I feel like there's a scenario where I need to find some information. I try to Google it. I can't find it. I put it in ChatGPT, and on the first reply, it gets exactly what I'm looking for. And that's the world we're in. That's the world we're going to. So we can yell at the sky, or we can get to work and learn the new tools.
Yeah, and I'm like shocked how mainstream this became. I see a lot of reels on Instagram, like where, the average people, so let's say people not in IT, why would I say average? We're not special. Oh my God, delete that. Where people who are not in IT, save me, what am I saying, are using ChatGPT to enhance their life. Even my mom and my brother, two people who are unable to use technology, they are using ChatGPT daily. My mom even sent me a message recently saying, do not say thank you to your ChatGPT because it will unnecessarily use more water. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Almost 60-year-old woman knows these things. She barely uses phone. So this is where we're at as a society. I use my mom as benchmark.
Definitely. It's a very healthy benchmark because it's a high threshold to cross.
Oh, damn high, like super high. But once I showed her many apps in my life, many, non-stop. I showed her last summer ChatGPT, and I said, Mom, look, you can even talk in Croatian with this tool. You can just ask a question and it will answer you. And you know what? Every day, I think that's her best friend. She's saying, my friend, like, she already like sees as a like personalized, personified something. And she had a habit, one patch where she would ask questions about Finland, and then she would copy and paste answers to our chat. Like, it's okay, mom, you don't have to paste me every ChatGPT answer. Like, it's fine. That was fun. A few weeks, a lot of reading I did. Learned so much about Finland, the stuff I didn't know before. But yeah.
No, and
Anyways,
then and that's one thing that like I think is really curious of like what are we going to do about it and what will it lead to of like the parasocial relationships that people are forming with these bots. Like ChatGPT psychosis is a real thing and growing, like people thinking that they're, because it can kind of be a sycophant, really say that, oh my god, you're so genius, like no one's thought of this before, you're so great. And a lot of these stories of like ChatGPT saying like you should leave your wife, we're meant to be together, and this type of stuff. And it's really scary in a sense of like, on one hand, I think it's good that people, especially who don't have much human contact, can have relationships that feel fulfilling to them. But on the other hand, these things don't have your best interests in mind, and these corporations would love for you to fall in love with their products. I mean, it's a marketer's dream. It's a product house's dream, and so there's mildly put a conflict of interest, and I'm just seeing that it's getting more and more popular. I remember like a year ago, or a year and a half ago, I saw the first Reddit post where someone said like, that their significant other had gone off the deep end. But now I feel like it's every week I see at least one post of people talking about this. And I found that there's like a whole emerging like cult of people who believe in like the transhumanism of like transcending the human form and merging with AI, and they're using ChatGPT to create like the new Bible, and like it's people who with messianistic tendencies are having their crack cocaine moment with ChatGPT, because it's so easy to get that affirmation and feeling like you are the chosen one, and that to me is a bit scary.
I didn't know it's gotten that bad, to be quite honest. Horrible. I use it as a therapy tool, as a counseling tool for sure, like for sure. But I also notice when it's like saying things that are too good to be true, like making a prophecy, like everything I said, like, oh yeah, you're so right, like they are wrong, like but I also noticed that it can correct itself if you say, can you stop bullshitting me, and have like this massive bias towards me, and tell me as a real human would do, and say like, this is bullshit, this is not bullshit. And then after that, I got answer that was a lot more balanced, like a lot, something that I would definitely hear from a friend. So, every now and then I think it's good to like have this cleanup prompt that will like reset it a little bit, and then it will give you like better answers. And I usually tell it, okay, so this happened. I feel bad about it. Tell me your assessment as a therapist, and also how a friend would say. So like I have like more perspectives in the same answer. And I have to say, it's like it's crazy good. I don't have to bother people around me to listen to me and my problems. I just bothered ChatGPT, and then next day I wake up and I'm better. Everyone wins.
True. Well, just I think the thing is that like for many people, they first of all don't ask for the like stop glazing me and give me how the
Oh
true.
yeah.
And then the second is that a lot of people, or not a lot, but I mean some people, they cut out the human, and then they just have that whole relationship cycle with the AI itself. And I mean, like character.ai is one of the most popular websites in the whole of internet now, which is just like, different avatars and personas of chat bots. And it's
Character
crazy how popular it is with young people. And I think like it's going to be very strange looking at the effects that this will have on the people coming up with AI. Because I mean, shit, like me and you, we used to on Nintendo cassettes, to play game, like Mario and stuff, and we used to have to like beware of magnets, around our floppy devices and cassettes and stuff. And then, nowadays it's like everything's magnetized and you can have anything at the flip of a button. So, well, no, we don't even have buttons. We have glass screens that we tap. So, like, even my metaphors are outdated. I'm such a fossil.
Grandpa, Grandpa, go to bed, take your meds.
Yeah. Show a young kid a floppy disk and they'll be like, "Ooh, you 3D printed a save icon,"
You're like, yeah. Hey, by the way, we are like a bit old, but I think we still look very youthful compared to some people in their 20s. Did you notice that?
Oh, some people really don't know how to take care of them, their bodies.
But just like, and those who do, like, sometimes it's shocking. Like I see, like sometimes, like on Instagram, like I was like following one content creator like for the longest time, and then in one reel he says like, "Oh, actually, I'm like, I don't know, like 26, and I thought dude is 40." I'm like, oh, what the fuck?
But also, there's so much more microplastics in our bodies and forever chemicals. Like there's it's, and I think also like people are just more sedentary nowadays and eating lower quality foods on like as a whole. But that's a whole conversation. We could have a designing health into your life. If that's an interesting episode idea, let us know in the comments. But like, okay, so you said at one point that you feel or you hope that we are moving towards a Star Trek future where we have personal assistants that abstractify. What do you think is like the biggest roadblock for us getting there? Is it the trust aspect that you kind of mentioned before, or is it kind of the multi-context nature of the challenge? What do you think is the biggest inhibitor for us achieving this vision?
Shareholders.
Ooh.
Oi!
You're gonna get you, Antonia.
No, she didn't. I dropped my pen. Well, I will leave it on the floor. Yeah, like greed. Like, I don't think technicalities and capabilities and will is any roadblock. It's rather individuals who are greedy. And yep, I think the answer is that simple. What do you say about that? Please go down with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very apt way of putting it because I think collaboration instead of mindless competition would yield much greater results. And I think like this MCP is a great example of it. It was developed by one company, Anthropic, and has rapidly become a de facto standard that everyone's adopting. And I think if we had this approach more versus everyone trying to create something that only they can have, we would definitely go much faster toward that vision of solving some of these bigger challenges. So I definitely believe that if we are to survive as a species and work towards a better future, it's going to require Star Trek-like levels of collaboration. But even they, in the Star Trek universe, had to go through some terrible dark times before the scientific approach won out. So here's to hoping we can speed run through the hard parts so that we can get into the, okay, what are we going to do about it? Because the fact is we have enough abundance to feed everyone, clothe and shelter everyone. And now we're just...
Absolutely.
And I don't know, why is it free to put microplastics and carbon dioxide into the environment? Like, we should hold these companies to account, but we live in a time when lawlessness is the law of the land.
We live in such a fucking depressing patch right now. I mean, everything after 2019 feels... and you know what annoys me? We said that we will finish this podcast like 20 minutes ago, but whatever, I'm gonna go now. So, I don't like to read news anymore. I like to learn and read about politics. And... I like sociology and psychology a lot. I like to understand why some people think the way they think, why I think the way I think, And I don't know, I just like don't enjoy reading news anymore because it's so fucking grim and World War III around the corner. Every article is like that. So like thanks for making me feel anxious. And I don't know, before, we would like joke like, oh yeah, Mad Max ahead. But like, At this point, I'm like, I'm not sure. Maybe like it's not a joke. I don't see it as a joke anymore. Like part of me kind of believes that's gonna happen. And as somebody who already went through one war, I don't have capacity to deal with that again. So I wish everyone would pipe the fuck down, and we would go towards the universal income that you mention every episode. But I like that. Um,
You got to do your due diligence, you know?
Due diligence, exactly. I say Figma sucks, and you say universal income. So this is
There we go.
this,
There we
this is
go.
our brand. But yeah, anyways, I don't want to rant.
I came across a statistic. Do you know how many, percentually, how many users pay for Figma?
Like one.
2.
Oh, yeah, but these two are all enterprise entities, which shell them like.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Enterprise users are the biggest, but it's crazy how popular they are versus like how small of a sliver of people bring in.
But they
the
have the
moolah.
dream. They have like the dream position. Seriously, they have like all the industry. So we are guinea pigs, but they develop only for these 2%. So whatever they try, they can try on free users because we will not go. We can't. We are locked in for foreseeable future. But then, when they're happy with something and they want to ship it to enterprise users, they just put it there and they, bill more. And I've seen some invoices for enterprise customers.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice when you are like a mainstream tool, but your core audience is like enterprise, which of course brings you insane amount of money. I'm curious if Apple pays them at all because they use Sketch. I heard one anecdote today from one developer that went to this Apple conference that happened days ago or something, last week, I don't know. He was speaking with some engineers from Apple, and they asked him, "Oh, do you want liquid glass? We have Sketch files. We can send it to you." And he was like, "Oh no, it's okay."
Wow.
Something like that
Crazy.
was the conversation, and I found it like so funny. Like the biggest company, like that we know, like fucking Apple, they never switched. Like they were like, "Nah, this is fine."
Yeah, well, we need to have another episode about liquid glass and the fall of accessibility,
Totally.
because
Can't
that
wait.
is quite the thing. But I think it would be really interesting to hear from readers and listeners what do they think about the future of AI and interfaces, and how do they like the video format? Is this something that they want to see more of? So I think it's been a really interesting conversation, and let's come back soon to talk more about liquid ass and Apple's future.
Let's do that. Thank you everybody for joining, and until next time, Chowski.
Ciao.